All right, outstanding. So I, like I said, I didn't have a formal presentation, but I do have a couple of slides up, and I didn't even change it to presentation mode. I just left it, pretty informal, so we can kind of go along, and then we'll take it off as well. But that's my contact info, which you already have. And then our meeting norms, we don't necessarily have to stay on mute since it's such a small group. You can use the chat some if there's something you want to remember or make a note of or drop a link. You're more than welcome to do that. Cameras on, but not required. As far as raising hand before speaking, we're small, we're good. And then speak briefly, stay on topic, and then just a reminder that the session is being recorded. So again, appreciate you all coming today. So our first question, our topic is with student engagement. Our first question, what are some creative ways your teachers keep students actively engaged, especially those who are less confident in their physical abilities? And David, I picked on Lori Carroll in the first session. I said, Lori, tell us about Dave Burgess and Teach Like a Pirate, because that was one that immediately came to my mind. So I don't know if you want to share a little bit about that and what happened in that session. It's not directly related to what your teachers do, and maybe you have some examples, and we did have some examples of some things teachers did, but can you share a little bit about Dave and his message about teaching like a pirate?
Yeah, I mean, we've always one of my ISTs with elementary, Sarah Zadev, kind of hit on the art of teaching versus the science of teaching. And the science is where we're aligned, it's all that we have. The art of teaching is that energy level of how you come in and connect with every learner. And it was just, I don't know how he does it. It was just, I started when we're watching him, he's just nonstop energy level, questioning, involving students in the activities. And I think, wow, I can do this for a period. I started wondering about 6 or 7 all day long. But it is, it's like, it's the energy level that you approach whatever the content is. Everybody's got some things that are their favorite subjects and ones that they're maybe are not their favorites or maybe not that well versed in, even in the content, their strength areas. One example I thought of as I was watching how he approached this, there was we have to do state mandated fitness gram testing here in Texas. And if you approach it as that, that's going to be a long week. One year I decided to make some slides and pair it with American Ninja Warrior. And these are all the health related fitness components you need to be a Ninja Warrior. And just did this really high energy approach where kids were in centers when they weren't doing fitness gram with me. And it worked for 9 out of 10 kids. The 10th kid figured it out that it wasn't the best thing I've ever felt, but it was several days or weeks into it. But for most kids, the energy level of the approach gave it some value, even though there was probably a unit they would have much rather been doing that. But that art of teaching have that effect.
Well, and Dave Burgess, he's a social studies history teacher as opposed to a PE teacher, but he talked about making learning an experience, and making it something that the students will remember. And he gave examples of students who registered for his class, and then they had to take him out of the class, and they were like, okay, I got to juggle my schedule and figure out how I can stay in Mr. Burgess's class because he does like the 60s party day, and they all have like this big 60s event. And then when he teaches about prohibition, he changes his classroom into a speakeasy, and he's all dressed in the prohibition era clothes, and the kids come up and they're kind of looking, and they knock on the door, and he kind of creaks it open just a little bit. He's like, what's the password? That kind of thing. So but and obviously there's ways, we as physical education teachers or health education teachers, depending on your group, they they can do different things. Is it going to be an everyday thing? Yeah, probably not. But if you can get your teachers to start implementing 1 or 2 of these special things a year, and then the next year 1 or 2 more, and then all of a sudden they've got a dozen to 15 special days in their back pocket that students don't want to miss. Like nobody missed the 60s party day in Dave Burgess's class because they knew it was going to be super fun. But anyway, so I mean, those are some experiences that he talked about. And I think, David, when we were eating breakfast the next day or lunch that day, we talked a little bit. I did a thing not directly related to fitness testing, but it was related to our fitness unit. I just hung up signs around the gym area. It said Club Devo coming Monday. And the kids are like, Club Devo? What is Club Devo? said, I don't know, man. I heard they were opening some sort of new club down here. I don't know what the deal is with it. Well, basically all it was like some fitness activities and then some fitness stations and all. But, I hung up a disco ball and, that kind of thing and turned the lights down low and had some, music going and everything and hung up signs, welcome to Club Devo. And they were like, oh, coach, come on, man, but still it was something they remembered. And when they said, well, what are we doing tomorrow? Oh, we got Club Devo tomorrow. Oh, okay, Club Devo. You gonna have the disco ball up? Yeah, I'll get it up there. So you create, an environment where they want to be there. So I don't know, Dave Halbert, any other things that you have seen from your teachers as far as creative ways that they get students engaged?
It's varied. We have one of the things I know you mentioned the first tee and the golf and rotating it, the rotating modules. We've had some module curriculum there that was developed years ago when we did a bunch of secondary modules and rotated them, and it was really kind of dry, and it had everything that needed to be in there. But as those started to rotate around and teachers got familiar with them, we really engaged our teachers that have built on that to become curriculum writers and to share that with the others. So it grows that capacity. And there are a lot of things that I've seen that I'm like, man, I wish I had seen that. One time with a rock climbing wall, there was one that I've seen where somebody took a slide and equated it to a lizard. Said, look what this lizard is doing. It's bringing its body in close to the rock. It's not hanging out way out here. And it done some stuff with science. It talked about leverage, and kind of relayed all that in there. It was stuff that it had some content in it, but it also had tons of visuals and rationale that spoke to every kid. I'm like, wow, nobody's done that yet. Let's get it
Yeah.
writing.
Well,
Beyond that one,
from our standpoint, it's easy to engage those kids who are the superstar studs or studettes, in athletics. It's trying to find those kids less confident, and sometimes, it may be a science approach that hooks one student into figuring out what's going on. And Michelle, I know you mentioned that your elementary teachers still deliver the physical education curriculum there, which is typically, I'm a former PE coordinator too. That's where usually we see all the all the creativity happen. I'm wondering too, among the elementary classroom teachers, have you seen anyone go above and beyond and create some experiences, or do they just kind of like, oh, I got to do this PE part. This is what we're going to do today.
I've seen a mix. I mean, the majority of our teachers are a little overwhelmed. I'm trying very hard
Right.
to get elementary PE specialists in our district, but we have 70 elementary sites, so that's a pretty big, district fund. But yes, I do see some elementary teachers who are just naturals, and you can tell they love it and they enjoy it, and they're out doing lots of the new, different, activities instead of just like a kickball and some of the normal and kids just thrive in that environment. And at the secondary level, this is what I, along with my PE advisory, are trying to really promote with our teachers is that we get upset because kids are not always engaged, and it feels like post COVID we're still trying to get kids back. I don't know if you guys are still feeling that, but just disengaged, don't want to do anything. Um, and so what we keep reminding them is if you're doing the same old volleyball, basketball, and yes, there's a time for volleyball and basketball, but when you're doing it seventh grade, eighth grade, ninth grade, 10th grade, they're bored with it. The kids who are really good play, the rest give you very little activity and very little engagement, energy. So our thing is like provide those new, different, fun activities that they haven't been exposed to. Golf, of course, pickleball. Everybody's on the pickleball, which is wonderful, right? But things like that, where everybody's nobody's really great at it, so it doesn't feel like, oh, I'm really bad. I'm not going to get up and play fully because I'm not as good as these other kids as they do in volleyball or basketball, for example. But yeah, just really trying to find different activities that engage them. I think that's the biggest thing. The second thing, and I think it goes back to what you were saying, is and I see this because I have some superstar teachers who bring so much energy every day. When you bring that energy, your kids feed off of that energy, no doubt. We all know that. So I think it's really important for us to continue to just remind teachers that, the energy level you bring and the excitement that you bring on a game or activity or unit or skills, whatever it is you're teaching, is really how you get it reciprocated, and that's our goal, is just trying to help our teachers to like help yourself. It's a lot easier to come in with, versus having to scream and yell at kids to keep going, get up, keep moving, stop, whatever it may be. Like, I'd rather put my energy in that positive, atmosphere versus that negative. And so just reminding teachers of that. But I'm going to be honest, that's one of the reasons I came today, because that's a struggle of ours, is engaging all students has gotten more and more difficult. And I'm sure we can all agree to that.
Yeah, and that point about COVID was brought about in the first meeting as well. And you made a point about, bringing that energy, like David said, that's the art of teaching as opposed to the science of teaching, and being able to make those connections. Because face it, I mean, teachers are competing against this. That's their competition
Absolutely.
right now. And
Yeah.
so if you can't put on a show, then
Yep.
they're going to disengage and they're going to go back to what's most entertaining, and not be a part of the class. But I do think too, and like you said, finding some of those, I don't want to say alternative activities, but I guess maybe supplementary activities. So
Mhm.
I know, like with volleyball, you could do nine square in the air. Obviously,
Mhm.
it's expensive. There's some expense there,
Yeah.
but similar activity, similar skills, but a totally different setup. That's like, oh, wait a second, what is it? This is different. It's
Yeah.
not regular volleyball, but you can
Yeah.
change it around and shake it up to make it that way. One other point that was brought up on the first meeting, was having kids, especially at the secondary level. You have those that are really competitive. They want to play. High ability, high skill levels. And then you have the kids that are there because, hey, I got to get the credit. That's
Mhm.
the only reason I'm here. And kind of going back to the old school intramural type of situation. Hey, we had the competitive division and we had the recreational division. I don't care which one you want to play in, but this is what we're doing this activity today. And if you're here, because you want to get some physical activity, get some movement, learn the skills, have some social, which we know is the social time is part of, our well-being and SEL and all too, then go fine, go to the rec division. But hey, it's an open door going both ways. Now, I don't expect you to go from rec to competitive, seven different times during a class period. But if you're in the rec division, you're like, hey, my skills are, I'm a little bit more advanced in this. Fine, shoot on over to the competitive division. Not a big deal. We'll figure out a spot for you and get you in the game over there. So those were just a couple of examples that were brought
Yeah.
about. So that may give you some ideas, too, as far as moving forward, what potentially could be done. But like I said, it's just kind of a think tank, and a lot of it's trial and error. And I will provide you all with the links from the first session too, so you can listen to that, because that may spark some ideas in your head, or give you some other ideas. And I'm obviously not going to get completely everything that was in there. So
And
um,
Brian, actually, I'll jump in for a second.
yeah.
Speaking of trial and error, when I was early teaching and I had some middle school girls that really did not want to participate, I was kind of frustrated and I said, you know what, tomorrow, or not tomorrow, but the next time you come into physical education class, you get to teach me something. And I will do whatever it is as long as it's appropriate. And they brought in some sort of dance that they were going to like show Mr. Hart. And for about 10 or 15 minutes, the whole class watched me make a fool of myself trying to learn this dance. And I practiced that dance at home for probably 2 weeks after that. And I came back and I said, all right, it's time for me to be assessed. You guys are going to give me a grade. How'd I do? And of course, the whole class went crazy and all that. And what that did was it made those middle school girls see me kind of in a different light and say, hey, if Mr. Hart is willing to look foolish in order to learn something, because I did, I looked foolish, then certainly we can give, some of these things a try that he's asking us to try. So I actually do that. I model that with my college students now. I teach at SUNY Cortland in the teacher prep here. And I model that with my college students early on in the semester. And I try to reinforce like teaching is a relationship. You have to be
Mhm.
willing to kind of put yourself out there and show your students that you can learn from them just like they can learn from you. And it's always like they teach me some silly dance or they try to teach me that whatever lingo is the latest lingo or whatever. But it just helps build rapport. And then when I really need to kind of call on folks to say, hey, I need, I know this isn't the most fun thing for you, but I need you to give it a try. I get a little bit more buy-in.
Yep.
Aaron, to kind of piggyback off of that, one of the things that I've suggested to our teachers is to start with like usually they get back to school, they've got a week or two of lockers and all of the administrative things, purchasing PE clothes. But then they jump right into a skills unit. And so some kids just aren't quite ready for that. And so my thought is like, hey, start with some kind of team building, cooperation, SEL kind of games. Give a whole
Hmm.
unit of that so that, kids look around, they're seeing everybody else kind of look foolish or working together, or whatever it may be, seeing the teacher as well. So kind of building the relationships with their peers, starting to feel comfortable with them, building that relationship with the teachers, and then moving into, whatever your specific curriculum is for your grade level. So we're going to try
Yeah.
that and see if that helps. But yes, I've always heard connection before content. Like they've got
Yep.
to trust you, they've got to know you, they've got to feel comfortable with you. And some of those kids, there's a lot of barriers to that. And so just trying to bridge that gap before you start, throwing them into whatever it may be, swimming, sometimes dance. That's a little scary for some kids. So
Yeah,
hoping that
absolutely.
might help.
And that's what we did with the new open curriculum maps for next year. Is we moved that up towards the beginning of the school year, so that and it helps new kids to the school. If you have a
Yeah.
transient community, it helps kids learn names. It helps the teachers learn names of kids. So it's a wonderful opportunity there to build those connections in. So I think in the vault somewhere there's a video of Mr. Hart doing that dance. I'm almost positive some
Not
of
that
us will
dance,
be able
but
to we'll be able to
there's some
dig
silly
that
dancing
out.
happening.
Those are
All
very,
right.
Brian,
So
can I ask you, what is the name of that? You said you guys created that for open. Is that called a specific unit? What do you guys, what's the,
yeah, it's called the Adventure Learning module. It's
okay,
in middle school and in high school.
awesome. Adventure learning.
And there's a minute to win module for elementary, for upper elementary, which is kind of the same,
Okay.
team building style games in kind of a minute to win it, format.
Okay, perfect.
Yep. All right. So, question number 2, how do you ensure PE activities appeal to a wide range of student interests and skill levels? And obviously we want to be able to cover the standards and outcomes and make sure all that's done. But we also need to make sure that we're giving a wide variety of experiences, kind of to your point earlier, Michelle, with a teacher who's teaching, 7th, 8th, and 9th grade, to have them do the same volleyball over and over and over again doesn't really do much to engage student interest or do anything for a variety of skill levels there. So we talked a little bit about having that variation, scaffolding different lessons, adding different components. I gave the example earlier with volleyball and a product like Nine Square. So any other ideas you have as far as making sure that the activities appeal to everyone?
Something that I was fortunate to inherit, a whole team did. About 10 years ago, the team here before us did a grant and had a lot of instructional modules that were implemented. And it was just like what y'all were talking about. PE isn't just ball sports at a lower level. It can be things like fencing. We have trailers of equipment that rotate to campuses, so they get to try a whole wealth of different things. So within that, there's things that have that ability to speak to more students. It's something that we're trying to sustain. It's also very expensive after the
Oh,
grants
yeah.
we're out, and there's a mindset there that are that is hard for people who aren't PE to understand, and decision makers. Their traditional thinking is it's just sports at a lower level, which is not going to be engaging to a lot of the kids. They're working out the more diverse we become. So that's one piece. Michelle spoke to it too. Try and do something that isn't just traditional. It's football season, so we're going to do football with our part of the day and make that last for an entire. That isn't going to go well, but it really is neat. I'm trying to come up with some ways to kind of sell this better. And one of the things I thought of is a tree, where what's deep rooted is what we have in culture, where we come from. If we just stay there and we never bring our kids together, you're going to have some amazing athletes, and you're going to have some kids that never have an opportunity. And then it kind of bridges into a trunk, and then includes all of our locomotor skills, all of our building foundations. And then it starts to branch out. And what ultimately is the whole umbrella of the tree is all these different activities that kids get to explore. So as I'm working to keep that alive, if I was in a program, I'd be trying to look for an opportunity to put something like that in play.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, being able to give that variety of experiences to students, and if it's like you mentioned, fencing. Okay, I know in seventh grade I'm going to get to do fencing. I can't wait. And it may be the only opportunity those kids have during their K-12 experience, to do that. But it may be one of those activities that gets that kid to school that day. Or so you really have to give them, a lot of different opportunities. And when I was in the classroom, lacrosse was just starting. This was the early 2000s, and it was just starting in the South. And I didn't know the game that well, but the kids, I had them, try to learn the game, but I took feedback from them too. Like, okay, I planned this lesson today. Let's talk about it at the end. Let's take the last few minutes. Let's debrief a little bit and let's talk. Okay, what worked really well about this? What didn't work well? What would you change? If you could change one thing about, what I taught you today, what would you change? So, being able to allow them to provide feedback, also helps because sometimes some of those students who are at lower levels or maybe aren't as interested, well, this was really hard for me and I need more practice at it, or I need more opportunity to work, or maybe I needed smaller groups so that I would get more turns. So, taking that feedback helps. One thing that was interesting from the first hour, Amber McNeish in Pasadena ISD, she has, I think she said it was mostly her secondary teachers, when they start a course, they do like a survey of the kids. Like what do you want to learn in this course? What do you want to, what do you want to do? What do you want to play? What do and then as we discussed it further, she said, well, I almost like feel like I need to amend that because I need to include in there, okay, this is what we have to teach you in this class. These are the concepts or the standards or outcomes that we have to teach you. What do you want us to teach you in order to get you there to deliver this? So I thought that pre-assessment idea was kind of a unique type of thing to do. So Michelle, any ideas from you on appealing to the wide student interests?
Well, I will just say it kind of goes with everything you've all been saying. As a teacher myself, I would always like that first month as I'm trying to just, make relationships and talk about what we're going to do for the year. And I would always tie it to, these are the standards that we've got to follow. But I would tell kids, this is kind of like taste testing, like you all, just like dinner or just like food at home, there might be certain things that you love and there might be certain things that you don't know. So you say you don't like, but until you taste test them, you don't really know. And so what I'd say is, I've got a group of you that I'm sure is going to love our flag football unit, but there's going to be some folks who don't like it. And vice versa, when we get to tumbling or when we get to step aerobics or whatever it may be, some of you are going to go, oh, I hate that. But others of you are going to say, oh, now that's more, my style. And so what I just always would try to say is that's what PE is about is helping you to find activities that you enjoy so that you will for a lifetime say, hey, when I got to get out and exercise, I'm going to make sure that I loved pickleball. I'm going to make sure I'm out and doing that. And so taste testing to know what you really do like and not like versus just assuming you don't like it because you've never done it or that you're not good at it. And the kids really responded to that. And what was always my funny is I would be very strategic in like in California, of course, we've got some a little bit sometimes crazy weather, really hot, really, decently cold. But I would be strategic in with my department and when I would use certain facilities. And so I would always put tumbling like right after Christmas because it's really cold. Kids don't want to be outside. A lot of their peers are outside and they're freezing and they're wet. And I'd say, hey guys, we're doing tumbling this month, but we're warm. We're, all these things. So I'd kind of sell it in that way. Most of them would like roll their eyes and hate tumbling. And then by the end of the year, when I'd give the assessment of what was your favorite unit, it was amazing how many said tumbling. And so it's just, once again, it's like, you got to try things. You may not like it, but you're going to learn some skills. You're going to have the opportunity to build a foundation and who knows where that'll take you. So, so I always did like the post kind of, what did you like most? But I never did the pre. So I do appreciate the pre. I think that's definitely something I'll recommend to my folks just to help kids have a voice. But once again, our kids would say like certain things. It's like, hey, we can't go snow skiing. Sorry. But
Right.
so maybe giving them a little bit of a box to stay in, but here's some ideas and here's some activities. How do you want us to help you learn these? So I like that a lot.
Yeah, and even you could potentially list different
Mhm.
activities and have them rank them, 1 to 6, and then give them a space to write in, who are your writing candidates for
Yeah,
different activities. So, but I love that taste test analogy.
yeah,
That's a good one. I like
yeah.
that one a lot. So, good deal. Aaron, anything from you on that one?
I'm a big fan of surveys and just hearing from the kids because I think we would learn so much about our own teaching when we get that feedback.
Mhm.
So I think a pre and a post survey is a great idea, even if the post is just like end of year, like you were saying, which was your favorite. Um, we did some surveys here at the college a bit ago on how we do our activities courses. And we've been doing activities courses the same way for our P kids for at least 15 years since I've been around. And we made some pretty significant changes, right? Because racket sports didn't have pickleball. What were we thinking?
Yeah.
Like that just was absurd once we got that feedback and we were like, of course we should have pickleball. So yeah, I think that's an important piece of it.
All right. Well, question number 3 is one that has been around probably since I started teaching back in 1989, but has become a little bit more prevalent, as Michelle mentioned. What do you do when a student consistently refuses to participate or seems disengaged? Now, I know in neither one of your school districts you've seen this at all because everyone's 100% engaged all the time. But anyway, but seriously, yeah, I mean, and as you mentioned, Michelle, since COVID, that's all the stories that I hear, and what our national trainers hear is just gotten worse after COVID with people who do not, students who do not want to be engaged, they don't want to participate. Doesn't matter, what you do. I have some theories and some thoughts, and they brought up a lot in the first session there, but would be interested to hear what your thoughts are as far as maybe any strategies you've seen working, any ideas that you have. Obviously, in the first session, we talked a lot about building the relationships, kind of like you said, Michelle, with going back to school and getting to know the students and being able to have a conversation with them rather than it being totally confrontational, like, oh, you didn't dress out today, you're not playing, or hey, go sit in the bleachers because you're not doing anything anyway. So I don't know if either of you have anything to contribute on that. Fire away if you do.
I'll share. I have one particular middle school in Fresno Unified that is in the heart of one of our worst areas. And we've got a lot of bad areas. We don't have a lot of good areas. But in the heart of what we call Bulldog territory, which is one of our prevalent gangs. I walk onto that campus and every single kid is dressed 100% participating. And I look at that and I'm like, gosh, it can be done. If it can be done here, it should be able to be done anywhere. Because kids will say, oh, these kids won't. But I'm like, these kids are those same kids and they're doing it. What's the difference? Of course, the energy of the teachers is huge. And they have a PLC for teachers who are literally on the same page. They've got an admin who really supports them. So there's a lot of things that I see that really, really kind of fall in line. But ultimately, like one day I just asked, and we all know seventh grade boys super squirrely, right? So as the teacher's getting ready to take roll before the kids are sitting on the blacktop, they're playing tag. So they're the typical squirrely little seventh grade boy. And then all of a sudden whistle blows and they're seated. And I just walked over and I'm like, hey, why are you guys all dressed out? This is awesome. And I go, why do you dress out every day? And he goes, well, because they make us. Like it was that simple. Um, I really think classroom management and expectations for kids is 100% because I'll tell you, I taught in a hard school. I was there 17 years. I had some of the toughest kids. Um, but I kind of treated them like my own. And I was like, listen, when you're in my class, these are the rules and expectations. I promise to respect you. You've got to respect me. The energy you bring is the energy you're going to get. Like I gave all of those. Um, it's funny though how kids responded to that. And that's what I see happening currently at this school site is like you've got these incredible teachers who are holding kids accountable. They don't let them, if you don't have clothes today, up, go grab a set of loners. Up, you walked out of the locker room with nothing on, go back in, grab. And it's funny that this whole campus of kids is doing wonderful things. One other thing that they do, my two 7th grade teachers kind of team teach everything, and my two 8th grade teachers team teach everything. And they've kind of got this great system where at the beginning of a unit, they actually separate that into 2 units, and they have teams. So they have like every single unit, every month, let's say, they create these new teams. So it might be, 3 guys, 3 girls, or whatever it is. And they mix it up because there's 2 classes. So there's always a good mixture of different teammates. And they totally use that in such a positive way. Anywhere they're going, first team to sit down, positive behavior. Oh, we're giving team 1 a point. Oh, and no loners in team 1. Up, they get another point. The kids, and once again, this is middle school, but they totally thrive off of it. So I think a couple things. I think their classroom management, and then I also think the fact that they, as I told you, they basically do double units. So the students 2 days a week might be playing like a scoop ball. 1 day a week they're doing fitness, and then 2 days a week they're doing spike ball or something else. So they mix it up enough that the kids don't get bored. I think that's critical too. Like, there's so many positive things that I think as I go there, I try to take notes, but I see so many things that are working, and I see a site full of kids who are thoroughly engaged, who follow rules. There's little to no discipline issues. I mean, it's just amazing. So I'm trying to
Wow, that's
replicate that, but
fantastic.
that's harder than
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, and those high expectations and everything. I mean, the big key is it's got to start the first day of school. You can't,
absolutely.
be lax for the first month and a half, and then all of a sudden, it's the beginning of October. Okay, we're gonna buckle down now. I mean, it's
Yeah.
got to start from day one. But for the most part, and it is difficult in that middle school, high school, when you have a department. If you've got a department of 4 and 3 of them are on board and one isn't, it totally brings down the whole ship, pretty quickly, and kids can catch on to that. But if you've got that whole department that's all together, it's way easier, and the kids totally buy in. They know they're not going to get away with it in one's class, and then not get away with it in somebody else's class. So, David, anything from you on that one?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. The relationship, the expectations, clear expectations, dressing out being the big one. That's something that broke down during COVID for some reason. And then a lot of coaches didn't want to start back up, and you could clearly see the differences in those campuses where they dug in and made it an expectation again. Some of the campuses where things were a little bit more challenging demographic, they made it a little bit you would dress out, but it was a choice of what you dressed out into. So bring your favorite workout clothes. We'll accept these things, but you will be dressing out to give some individuality there. Have a give and get where you have to, as an incentive. And the next one is technology and phones. There's some great ways to utilize them. It isn't free range every day. Be your individual with your phone. It needs to be for a channeled activity that the phone's being used for. If it's there at all, in most cases, it's better that it's not there. It's just too much of a adults struggle with it, not disengaging into the phone. I see it in meetings that I'm at where when the conference someone's in there and I'm like, I'm like, are they doing something that needs to be done, or is it disengagement? Most of the time it's disengagement. Definitely see it on the road too. So the gym is the same thing. If there's a place where we can make a stand with activity that we need to be more without it, PE and the gym is it.
Yeah, and I don't know if any other states did it, but I know that Georgia did the state law. I think it was only K-8. I don't think it included high school, where the students, if they had a phone, it needed to be put away or locked up during the day. So, they
New
may get
York
some.
just passed it. Yeah,
Okay, New York did
got a
too.
notification for my son's high school that next school year, no phones anywhere on campus.
Yeah.
Wow, all the way through high school though, huh?
Yeah.
California, same thing. I think legislation was just, I'm going to be honest, I think it's incredible. I think we're all sitting here from all these different states. If you told me the biggest thing that affected PE, I would say the phones, unfortunately. And kids feeling like they got to take them out and got to check them at all times. My own children do that. But yeah, we're enacting. I think ours is by January of 2027, maybe, that basically sites will be phone free, and that's the entire day, not just academic classes. I'm
Wow.
excited about it because I mean, I'm in classes all the time. And the number one thing that I hear teachers say more than anything else is put your phone away, put your phone away. It just takes away from our ability to teach because we're constantly trying to monitor and get those phones away. So,
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Aaron, anything else on that from you as far as
A
addressing the
lot of good
needs?
stuff there. The one thing I would say, we did a study a few years back about when we place our students, or when our students get jobs in schools where they don't have a supportive teaching partner. Brand new teachers only take about 4 weeks to acclimate to the negative culture,
mm,
and we've lost them, right? I mean, when they walk out of here, they're ready to wear their collared shirts and, make sure they never say the word gym class, and, all the things that we want our future professionals to be like. But, about a month, and if they have a negative teacher who's just in it for the roll out the ball paycheck, they're rolling the ball out, and it's kind of terrifying and disheartening. But I do think that there's I don't know if you know the folks from DC Public Schools, but when they hire our new teachers, because we actually send a lot of our teachers down there, they put them with a mentor. They purposefully take new teachers and put them with a mentor teacher that will help them grow and thrive. And then after a certain amount of time, they'll reassign them to another site where they're either by themselves or they can start being a mentor for others. And our graduates that go down there have really thrived kind of in that sort of model.
Yeah.
Aaron, that's
Yeah.
awesome. I actually teach at the local or college as well, Fresno State, and I've purposefully like worked it so that our student teachers who come into our district go with very specific teachers who I want to emulate, like the teachers that I want them to look like, and
Yeah,
and we've had such success with that, and I feel like that is my number one way of being able to single-handedly change the profession in Fresno Unified, because we have so many of those teachers that are just the roll the ball out. Oh, that's not the way we do it.
right.
You're doing too much. You're making me look bad, and preparing them for that. Like, listen, you're going to go out to sites, and you're going to have teachers tell you don't do that. I had one just this week for summer school, went out, and the young gal who had gone through me was doing the mile with her summer school class, and the other teacher was just having the kids walk. And he's like, yeah, I told her, why are you trying so hard? These are all the flunkies. They're not going to do the mile. And I'm thinking, like, are you kidding me? They're all doing the mile and they're doing it well. And so it's those high expectations, but getting
Yeah,
those people to the right, because I think what you're saying is what, like, I always say this, like, rotten fruit spreads. I mean, it just
yeah,
does, unfortunately. And
yep,
I'm trying very hard to help those young teachers understand that's not what you've got, sometimes 30, 35 years in this profession. That's not what you want to look or be like, and that's not
right,
why you came into the profession. So don't let those out
right.
there. So I'm facing those exact same things and trying very hard to kind of do exactly what you're saying as well.
It has
I had a friend of mine who had a background in elementary and middle school, and he ended up, being hired as a head coach at a high school. So they brought him in to teach, and he had one of the other teachers come up to him and said, "Hey, buddy, you're about to teach yourself out of a job," because he was, like you said, he was trying too hard.
it's
So it's a
interesting.
shame.
And there's so many, it has to be scaffolded so carefully, especially, like big districts, which it sounds like, Michelle, same as us. We've got, 83 elementaries. And for the
Okay.
most part, they're alone. So it's like making sure that they are paired because it's isolated. There's nobody
Yeah,
else on
that's a
that
great point.
campus that's certified. At secondary, they're going to land into a team and there's going to be a coordinator.
Mhm.
And hopefully it's one that's highly developed and working well, or else it can possibly work against the development.
Yeah.
So we have to, in that scenario where someone's new on a team that's in transition, where we're working on alignment and trying to build something, then we have to not only approach it as the one individual, as the whole team. So it's not that person being, like, Brian said, teach yourself out of a job. If you land in the right,
Yeah, it
if you
can
land in a
happen.
spot where you're trying to do things right, people are like, hey, you're making us look bad.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's exactly it.
All right. So we're running out of time here. We got about 10 minutes left. So question number 4, and this is another one that is somewhat of a challenge. It's become, I think, maybe more of a challenge since COVID as well with the social anxiety. But how do you support teachers in addressing body image concerns and social anxiety that may affect participation. And I know, David being in Texas and with my teaching background mostly in Georgia, a lot of that had to do with the fitness assessment was a huge part of that, where we had to make sure with doing when we were doing fitness assessments that particularly with the height and weight and doing those that we had to be very respectful. And I told my kids, I said, look kids, nothing against you today, but today's Coach DeVore. I'm not Coach DeVore, I'm Dr. DeVore, and you're not it's not a day to joke around and smile. I'm not going to laugh a lot. It has nothing to do with you. I just want to be respectful to you and what you're doing here. So some days I even brought in the white lab coat and put that on like it was a doctor's office. But being respectful, obviously, and some of that too is gaining their respect. Hey, I'm not going to say any of your height and weight. I'm not going to say it out loud at all. You can ask me all you want to, and I'm going to tell you it's going to be on the report that we send home later, or you can look it up in your FitnessGram assessment account. It's not a thing where I'm not going to tell anyone, and you still could have potentially a student who's, oh coach, how much do I weigh? I really been working out. What do I weigh? What do I weigh? And but you tell one, and then, oh well, Bobby weighs this much. Wow, if Bobby weighs this much, can you guess how much Steven weighs? That's
Yeah.
like two of Bobby. And then all of a sudden you're on a slippery slope and you've created a situation that you didn't mean to intend to create, but it happened anyway, and it brings about some bad feelings towards PE from that student. So anything that you've been able to do other than provide some guidance, I'm sure you do to your teachers, especially with the fitness assessment component in there, and maybe you do a unique thing with that.
Yeah, we have. It's that's one area where we're very careful and make sure that it's it's kept confidential as far as the results for the students, and that the students know how to interpret it. I can recall when I was teaching elementary, like third, fourth, and fifth grade, and this is back when we had the big triple beam balance scales. And there's a point when that 100-pound weight was going to move. Now it's all digital, and I could see that, and I addressed it. Whole group, I'm like, look, at some point, everybody in this room will be over 100 pounds. It's going to be healthy that occurs. It's going to happen in the next few years. You won't be a healthy weight if that doesn't occur, because I could see that was causing. Fortunately, we have a more modern device that's just digital, but we do with the kids say, hey, I'm telling you, but this is for you only. And there's going to be a report that helps you interpret it. But it's normal. If you're taller, you're going to weigh more. It's just how it works. And we talk about that to make sure it's clear.
I think some of it, and it depends on the situation too, with body image. It is like I related it back to myself, and I would tell them a lot of times, especially teaching elementary and middle school. I was like, look, I was like 5 foot nothing and a round little, a round little guy until I got to high school, and my, as far as being in the healthy fitness zone for my BMI, I probably wasn't even close to it, even though we didn't do it. But I got to high school and all of a sudden, I grew 10 inches and, filled out, and then my body was proportional, and we all grow at different rates. So just because you're at this spot, at this snapshot in time with FitnessGram or your height and weight doesn't mean that's where you're going to be stuck forever, because everybody's body develops differently. So I think, and talking about being proactive with some of those conversations as opposed to reactive when somebody has a meltdown, and then I have to talk to them, about the meltdown, get guidance counselors involved and all that kind of thing. It makes it a little bit easier on the front end. Michelle, any experiences you have with that out there in California?
Well, I'll tell you this, we are no longer collecting height and weight.
Mm,
Do you guys all,
right.
FitnessGram basically isn't a lot, asking for it anymore. And so we've kind of gone away from that, which I think, I mean, I don't know, I have mixed feelings on that. As a teacher though, when I did height and weight, I would very specific, I'd kind of have those same thing, different kids grow and mature at different times. Your height may be shorter or taller now, usually y'all catch up, and we'd kind of talk about growth and development. I would also just, like, when I was doing those, would have my students sit in an area where one person would come to me at a time. And so nobody else saw. And that's what I would tell the kids. I'm like, listen, this is a number between you and I. There's no judgment for me. I'm writing it down. I'm recording it. It's something for you. And, and then I would give a weight chart though, to help them understand like where your BMI would be, or compute your BMI. I tried not to make too much of an issue of it, just because I think that is sensitive. And I think especially with young ladies at that age, very, very kind of traumatic. But I think a lot of my teachers just appreciate that they don't have to do it anymore because it did just feel kind of like a sensitive area.
For sure. You know, and David, I know you may share this with me, and Aaron, I'm not sure how much experience you have with FitnessGram, but it was, you know, at times, especially at the middle school level with the young ladies, it was kind of like one of those situations where at times I felt awkward, you know, depending, or, you know, and I was in some places where, you know, the young ladies were like, well, you're not going to weigh me, you're a man, you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I'm like, girl, I'm doing the height and weight on 180 kids today.
Yes.
I'm not going to remember anything about what your numbers are, or, you know, I got more interesting things to talk about at the dinner table. This is just part of the assessment. So, but you know, and it didn't happen very frequently, but still it can present some awkwardness, you know, from time to time for the males weighing the females, and perhaps vice versa as well. So, yeah, I mean, I think that from the social anxiety standpoint, I think being able to set students up for success, we talked a lot in that earlier about, you know, utilizing small groups where it wasn't, you know, a 12 or 11 on 11 flag football game and, oh, it came down to the last play and you messed up, you blew it. You know, it's if you've got 10 on 4 games going, hardly anybody's going to see what goes on. It's not, you know, one person blows it for the whole entire team or, you know, messes up the whole game somehow. So, plus it gives, you know, kids a lot more reps. And if you utilize that, you know, competitive versus recreational, you know, setup, it gives the opportunity for kids to compete more to their particular comfort level, which will help them deal with perhaps some of that social anxiety.
Yeah, that's been really helpful. One of the things that we have since post COVID is we have a social emotional behavior team, and it's
Mm.
actually teachers with specialization that go around the campus and sport, and they've actually presented with our teachers to our teachers and groups around some of this. And I was amazed. I thought that we were going to get a little pushback or disengagement from teachers, kind of like, why are we doing this? Post COVID, they're very receptive and they're looking for support and ideas and ways to connect with kids. Prop one, just because they're great folks, and two, because it's a very challenging environment to meet those social emotional needs. So I was really impressed at the level of engagement, and when we worked directly with them, teachers were looking for support.
Oh yeah, no doubt at all. All right, on to our last question here as we finish out. So our last question on student engagement, have you used any student feedback or data to improve engagement strategies? So we talked earlier about Pasadena ISD using the pre-assessment, which I believe, if I recall correctly, she said she did the pre-assessment, but she hadn't done a post-assessment yet. She's like, oh, I need to do the post. And
Mhm.
you know, as you all talked, kind of vice versa. I think Michelle said she had done the post, but not the pre. So,
Right.
so obviously, you know, using some of that feedback to improve. I mean, I think it's always valuable to get some kind of feedback. Michelle, the feedback that you gathered, did you do it electronically through like the LMS in your system? Did you do regular
Well,
handwritten?
that was 7 years ago. So unfortunately, there
Yeah,
were like Microsoft Forms,
right.
nowadays I would just simply do a Microsoft Forms or something to that.
Yeah.
That once upon a time was just a paper pencil end of the year. Tell me your 3 favorite units. Tell me why. You know, what would you improve? All of those things. But the kids by that time of the year, you know, once you've had them for a while, once they understand your teaching style and appreciate your energy, they were very honest, and I would always take that and go back the next year and really, I mean, because that's the biggest thing. If we're taking feedback, if we're truly taking it, we should be making changes, right? There should be
Right.
you know, a majority of the kids said this. I never considered that. I need to make sure that I address that or I adjust that. And I think that's just what good teachers do. I like the idea that we're actually calling it out now. I think that was just a thought before, but now it's a conscious effort. So,
Well, it's part of that growth mindset too.
yeah,
I mean, nobody goes in year one through five and should view
yeah,
themselves as being a perfect teacher. You're going to
yeah.
grow tremendously, and that's part of that process too. David, do you all gather, or you know of any of your teachers who gather any kind of feedback?
I know some teachers do. As a PE department, we haven't done any student engagement surveys. The district has done some with all staff, teachers. That is, but I would be interested in something kind of at least getting whether we collect it or whether it's a tool that we develop and put in the hands of teachers for them to gather. Yeah, I'd be very interested in that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think, just from gathering the data of what did students like, what did they not like, and then, like Michelle said, from an individual teacher standpoint, if I have a class of 30 kids and 15 of them mention the same thing, that, hey, I really didn't like this, or hey, this wasn't enjoyable to me, then myself as a teacher, okay, let me figure out some alternatives or some ways around that to make it better, so that those kids have a totally better experience. Aaron, I know you're the survey master, so I'm sure you've done
Yeah.
plenty of those up there in Cortland.
We do a lot of survey work. We try to make changes. Our lesson plan format up here is kind of a ongoing. I don't know. Teacher preparation lesson plan formats are always seem to be a nightmare, but we're trying our best to try to help the kids through it. I just to y'all's point, like I hope the teachers that are taking the survey data look at it and use it. The worst thing is when we just let them sit on the desk and pile up and don't
Oh
ever
boy.
use it. So.
Yeah.
So one other thing, if you watch the recording from the first one, Houston ISD um, does a lot of collects different data in different ways. With the secondary kids, they do an assessment through their LMS, but then also they do with some of the elementary students, they do more of a journaling type activity where the students write out answers, and then I ask, well, for the lower elementary, obviously that's a challenge for them. Do you do anything with pictures? And they said, oh yeah, we have them draw a picture of their favorite activity or
Hmm.
draw them participating in something. So that way they're still gathering that data. It just looks a little bit different depending on the age group that they're gathering it from. So I thought that was a unique approach to getting everything and being able to gather it from all the different grade spans. That was pretty cool too, I thought. So. But all righty. Well, as we kind of finish up here, appreciate the opportunity to speak with both of you, and appreciate Aaron jumping in as well. So some final thoughts as far as for today. We did recorded the other one over the next week or so. I'll try and get those links to you so you can go back and refer back to these, or you can then, or excuse me, refer back to this session or watch the first session from earlier today if you want to as well. In that email, I'm going to get a link for you to submit feedback. Since this is the first one that we've done, we want to get some feedback. And I had some people in the first one, texting me with some stuff as the event was going on, and then some followed up with a couple of emails afterwards. So more than welcome to provide any kind of feedback any way that you want to in order to make these better. Our next session is scheduled for September, and the topic will revolve more around curriculum and standards. And of course, I want to thank both of you for being here today and participating in the discussion and being engaged the whole time. You probably talked way more than you thought you were going to have to talk, but it's nice to have a discussion. It's fun to have a discussion too, even with a smaller group. So I enjoy the chance to get to know both of you and learn more about both of your school districts. And the last thing that I want to share, if you haven't heard about it already, I know David did last week, was with Family PE Week is coming up October 6th to the 10th, and Open is partnering with Active Schools to try and work this advocacy event to make sure that we get as many parents into the building or family members into the building so that they can see that what PE is all about now. It's changed a ton tremendously since we were in school, and even since the beginning of my teaching career in 1989. So it's a wonderful way to get those families in there and promote physical education and advocate for what we do so that we can get our the people that we reach on our side when we really need them for different funding and all the different aspects of physical education that we need help with. So, all right, I'm going to stop the recording now.